أنت ما اهتدينا ولا تصدقنا ولا صلينا اللهم لولا أنت ما اهتدينا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How is everyone doing? Back at it again. This time it's going to be Brother Libiano's debate reaction from a person who's apparently a doctor, is what I've heard. But inshallah, we'll dive into it, then have a raw reaction, and we'll see how things end up. Link to join is in the comment. If someone wants to show up and defend Nicene Creed from the Bible, we can look into it. I don't think anyone would be able to. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the topic of debate, exactly the same like Samuel Green's, where there is and has been an attempt to prove Jesus' consubstantiality from the Bible. I don't think it's there, especially with a couple of early church fathers, so to speak, Tertullian and Justin Martyr, saying that, if someone's begotten, then they cannot naturally be the same as God the Father. Okay, I'm just gonna mute myself for 1 second, and then we're gonna dive deep into it, and we'll discuss all these things, inshallah. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into it and see what's going on, inshallah. Hopefully, it will be amazing. Here we go. It's gonna be fun. A few hearts are gonna be broken. Hopefully, Brother Libiano cooked. And here it is, inshallah. Let's go.
Reason in Theology, really excited to host another debate here. This one is going to be on the same topic as before, but a different debater. We're going to go over the topic, is Jesus God, consubstantial specifically, according to the Bible. And of course, we have Orthodox Muslim returning and Luis Dizon. Really excited for this debate. What we're going to do is we're going to have two 20-minute opening statements, 20 minutes each, with Luis going first since he's defending the thesis, then Orthodox Muslim. After that, we're going to have rebuttals, 10 minutes each, same order. Cross-examination period, 20 minutes each, same order, and then audience Q&A. So maybe hold off on your questions until towards the end of Orthodox Muslims cross-examination period. I'll alert y'all in the chat whenever I want y'all to send some questions, and just upfront letting y'all know, let's try to keep it balanced as far as the questions. And so maybe if possible, ask a question for both debaters. That way we can keep it balanced here. And then closing statements after that, 4 minutes each with the same order, Luis, then Orthodox Muslim. Before we dive in, however, let me welcome both of y'all back to the show. Luis, how are you? Good to see you. I think you might be on mute.
doing a little,
So
dealing
we're
with a little
just
bit of.
gonna skip to the part where
Yes,
he
I'm just
starts
dealing with a
making
little
his
bit of
statement.
lag.
Okay,
All
here we
right,
go.
thank you very much.
The biblical case for Jesus's divinity, I think that's a little bit off for the slide because we are talking about him being co-equal, which is discussing Jesus's consubstantiality, so to speak.
All right, thank you very much, and I am ready to begin. So, thank you all for coming. It's a great pleasure to share a stage with my esteemed colleague here, Liviano, aka Orthodox Muslim. So now I am going to make my presentation. So the thesis of the debate is Jesus consubstantial with the Father? And I'm taking the affirmative position. So we're going to delve into the biblical evidence. I know that other times that this debate has happened, we've also delved a little bit into patristics. If that comes up, I'll be happy to discuss those grounds as well. So by way of a prologue, let me just say why all this matters. So why are we looking at what the New Testament has to say about this topic? Well, the New Testament does provide us with our earliest and best sources for the historical Jesus and what his earliest followers taught about him, preceding the Quran by about 600 years. So the Christian view, which is shared by Catholics.
I just want to stop him here and say, just give me a second. Sorry about that. So yeah, I just want to say when he said about the 600-year thing, I have seen a few bits of him a couple of years ago. Excuse me. Not paying attention to that, but that's no excuse when Malachi was 500 years after Jesus, so to speak. Okay, I'm just gonna put that there too. Malachi 450 after before Jesus. Okay. So we're gonna keep adding banners for context for people. Sometimes what happens.
Protestants and Orthodox alike is that the Nicene formulation that Jesus is consubstantial with the Father, homoousion to patri in Greek, is the inevitable conclusion of the New Testament authors' teaching about the divinity of Christ. This doesn't mean that the New Testament authors used the phrase homoousion to patri, but the phrase homoousion to patri acts as a summary statement or a synthesis of what the different New Testament authors taught about this topic. And we'll see that that conclusion is supported by multiple lines of evidence. In fact, there are 5 such lines of evidence.
So I think he's taking help from his colleague or prof, so to speak, Robert Bauman. I'm guessing because that's his book too, The Incarnate Christ and His Critics, a Biblical Defense. So he's saying that, I'm just reviewing it on YouTube right now. It says HANDS, hence 5 sets of evidence. Jesus receives the honors due to God. So when it says honors due to God, it's already kicking Jesus out from divinity. Receiving honors due to God. Okay. Doesn't sound very co-equal to me. Second one would be Jesus has attributes of God. I don't know what that means. If it means trying to not lie, be good, be faithful, be honest, stuff like that. I don't know. Just gonna put that up too. Jesus is identified by the names of God. I don't know what names are that. If he's talking about Yahweh name, that's not in New Testament. So that's refuted there. Jesus performs deeds only God can do. Like what? What is Jesus doing? Deeds like what? commanding rain like Elijah. I don't know. Maybe I think he's gonna give one or two example most. Jesus shares this in the seat of God's throne. So I think this seat thing, maybe Messiah in Jewish tradition is supposed to be like that, but that's exaggeration of what do you call it? Honorific of honor. Nothing about God being a sham. Okay. So I think that's pretty much what he's going to discuss. So we're going to go line by line. This already sounds very bad for this doctor, but we'll see how things shape up. Okay, let's go.
That I'll be exploring. And this presentation format comes from the book, The Incarnate Christ and His Critics, A Biblical Defense by Robert Bowman and Jed Komachevsky. In fact, I showed Dr. Bowman a copy of my slides before this debate, and he helped me to fine-tune the arguments. So the 5 sets of evidence can be summarized using the acronym HANDS, which stands for H, Jesus receives the honors due to God. A, Jesus has the attributes of God. N, Jesus is identified by the names of God. D, Jesus performs deeds only God can do. And S, Jesus shares in the seat of God's throne. So this is what you would call a cumulative case argument, where you're building the evidence up and creating an inductive argument for the plausibility of a certain thesis. Now, this is different from a deductive argument where you deduce something in a syllogistic format. So to show you what the difference is, let me use an analogy. Suppose I were to tell you the following. While in Washington, D.C., I met a man named Donald. People called him Mr. President. He lives in the White House, and soldiers salute him when he passes by. Now, when you hear me say that, you would infer that I'm talking about Donald J. Trump. If you look closely at every single trait that I listed there, none of them in isolation would prove that the person I'm talking about is Donald J. Trump.
So unfortunately, this analogy doesn't work. First of all, soldiers are not present in White House, as far as I know. Secret Service is there. But yeah, if you're saying there's a person who is elected by people and witnessed like that, then that person can be a president. So if that thing is not there and there's a person in the White House, or if you just started living outside of Rock for a moment and you find out these things, you're still gonna ask people if you see that, or it's gonna say on TV, because you're not gonna meet president on your White House tour ticket. So those things are gonna tell that President Donald J. Trump is in the White House today, or if there's any news or anything about that. None of this means anything, and there can only be one president, not two, where people are confused that there are two presidents in the White House. Both are named Donald. Both share the same nature, same essence, and Secret Service is saluting him, and so on and so forth.
Like maybe there's other people in DC named Donald. Maybe I'm talking about a certain White House staffer, or maybe this is the president of some small company. But once you list all those traits together, you can infer that they are referring to President Trump. And taken together, they create a very strong cumulative case that the person I met is indeed him. You might notice, by the way, that I'm using the same form of reasoning that Libiano likes to use in his debates, and that is inference to the best explanation. Well, I'm going to argue that the best explanation for the evidence is that Jesus is consubstantial with the Father. So let's start with the first trait. Jesus receives the honors due to God.
So he's talking about Jesus in Isaiah 45. I would like to bring up Isaiah 45, 5 and 6. I'm just going to put it here as well. Here we go. Easy. No problem. I'm the God, there is no other God by myself. I don't know why he's saying that. It's going to bring up Philippians after this, maybe. But if you go to Philippians, it's going to say something else. But, I'm just going to let him say his piece, and we'll see how things shape up. Okay, here we go.
So I'm going to start off by quoting a passage from Isaiah 45, 22 to 23. And here Yahweh says the following: I am God and there is no other. By myself I've sworn. From my mouth went out righteousness, a word that will not return. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. So what Yahweh is saying here is that he is worthy of these sorts of honors. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. Well, guess what? This statement is actually taken by the New Testament and reapplied to Jesus. And we see this in the Carmen Christi, the famous pre.
What did I tell you guys? Did I say he's going to say that or not? So I think he's going to bring up Philippians, but Philippians basically destroys his case because there are a lot of things you cannot understand and explain, like emptying, humbling, and God knows what else. It says that God is at work in you. So God cannot be inside of anyone. I don't know how he is taking all these things out of context. Humbling, form of slave, stuff like that is going to pop up.
Calling him embedded in Philippians 2. Most discussions of the Carmen Christi start with the first half, verses 6 and 7. I'll save that for later on, but I want us to focus on the end part of the Carmen Christi, where it says this: at the name of Jesus, every knee will bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Notice that the Carmen Christi takes the passage in Isaiah and reapplies it to Jesus. Lehertado.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know why he's talking about Carmen Christi. If you look into Philippians 2, it's going to say, though he was in the form of God, he did not regard equality with God, and so on and so forth. Hello? Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, what's up?
Yeah, I just saw that you are questioning Christianity. Is that correct?
Yes. What's your denomination, brother?
I'm an evangelical Christian.
Okay. So can you defend Nicene Creed from the Bible?
Well, I know that this is the topic, but to be honest, I have I have to look in what is the question.
Do you know the Nicene Creed?
Yeah, probably I do, but just remember me quick.
So I'm gonna put it on for you. You can read it. Just a second. Are you Bible only, or do you follow church fathers?
I am Bible only.
Bible only. So probably you, I don't know if you, let me put it up for you. Oh, sorry. Here, can you see it?
Yeah.
So this is what it is.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. So these are formed by church fathers, and you're Bible only, right? So you don't follow church fathers or what they say.
Well, I mean, there is the Bible, and then there is interpretation, theology, and so forth. I would describe myself as sticking to the orthodoxy of theology. Okay.
Okay, so I mean, I'm a little confused. Do you know what the Ecumenical Council of Nicaea was for? When was it? Who was debating? what was happening?
Yeah, superficially, I've not studied a long time, so I don't remember the details, but I think it was about defining the nature of Christ.
Yes. So co-equal, co-eternal, all of those things, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so Arius was defending Arianism, and Athanasius was defending the current, what we know as Nicene Creed. And it was in 325. So, I mean, if this is what, how do you define Trinity? Let's say that. Let's forget about Nicaea first.
3 persons, 1 substance.
3 persons, but 1 substance. And you get that from Bible?
It is an inference from what we read in the Bible.
Okay. So where is it?
Yeah, I don't have this in mind, so I would have to look it up. But let me first, before we continue with this, let me understand where you stand on this. Is that okay?
Where I stand?
Yes. First of all, I would like to know from you if you believe that Christ was crucified and that he did resurrect.
But what does that gonna do with your faith?
Everything. It is the core of my faith that Christ was, that is God, the Son of God incarnate, that he came on earth to pay for the sins of humanity, that he was crucified for that, and that he was buried, and then the third day his sacrifice was confirmed by the Father, and he was raised, he resurrected. So that's what I believe. That's my core belief. I
No,
believe that
no.
I am saved through Christ's sacrifice, to what he did on the cross for me. So I would like to know where you stand on this. Do you believe that Christ was crucified and resurrected?
Yeah, but brother, that was not my question. I was asking you, are you believing in all of your beliefs because I believe in it, or you're believing it because of Bible?
The Bible is the basis of my faith, and theology, of course, is an inference from what we read in the Bible.
Okay, so let's do that first. Tell me where it is.
Well, I would have to study it in order to give you an answer. So from my head, I cannot give it to you, okay?
So let's suppose, what do you think Jews believed the Messiah was going to be? Let's say that.
Well, the thing is that the Jews, they had a very, let's say, fragmented and nebulous understanding of the Messiah. But I think that, for example, Isaiah 53 was interpreted as referencing the Messiah.
Which Jewish rabbi interpreted it that way?
Yeah, I would also have to look it up. I don't have that in my mind, so.
Okay, I'll tell you what Jewish rabbis and what, if they're memorizing Hebrew scriptures, what they read. So maybe let's go to, let me see if you can see this. This is Isaiah 12. It's talking about Messiah.
No, I'm talking about Isaiah 53, not Isaiah 12, okay?
No, I know you're talking about 53. That's what I'm not saying that.
Well,
I'm saying this is what they believe about Messiah. Can you read this?
God will hold up a signal to the nations and assemble the banished of Israel, and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
Okay. Do you think Jesus did that?
I don't know. I have to study it. I have not studied it recently, so I would have to look it up.
Have you ever read any Jewish commentary on?
Yes, I have.
Okay, that's good. Or let's do this one. So this is Habakkuk 2:14. Can you please read this one?
For the earth shall be filled with awe for God's glory, as water covers the sea.
Okay. Or I think something which pops up into my mind can be Zechariah 14:9. Let me see. Yeah. Because I can show you a couple of very major commentaries, and they say, and I quote them verbatim, they say Isaiah chapter nothing, verse nothing talks about the Christian Jesus. Here.
I'm not sure what are you aimed to. Where do you try to go with this?
So I'm trying to explain it to you that the Jewish Messiah is supposed to bring something for the nation of Israel. There will be peace on the planet, and everyone will be believing in one God, the God of Israel.
Yeah, I think this is a eschatologic prophecy which will fulfill when Christ comes after the big tribulation and establish the 1,000-year kingdom as it is described in Revelation.
I know, but they are talking about this in the first coming. They haven't accepted Jesus because Jesus didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to study this in order to give you a qualified answer. I cannot so just from my head.
Because anybody can say anything about second coming, like Muslims can do it, Christians can do it, but Jews have to believe about the first one first.
Yeah, the thing is that the Messiah would have to come from he is the spring of David, right? So in order to identify the Messiah, there has to be a genealogical record from where he would come from. And this genealogical record was lost 70 AD when the Romans destroyed the Temple of Jerusalem, and with that they destroyed also the records of the Jewish people. So let's suppose that the Messiah would come today. There would be no way to confirm that he is a spring of David.
Even for your Messiah, there is no way because the records are destroyed.
Yes, because we have it in the Gospels.
Yeah, but that's not any record because the
Yeah.
gospel genealogies are different.
Yes, but they can. I've done a study on this, and they can be reconciled.
How?
Well, do you want me to explain?
So
I'm
let's
sorry, I'm here in a live chat with you, talking to you. You are asking me questions. I'm not a computer, so I cannot straightforward give you an answer for things which I have studied years ago. So,
okay, let's do this. Tell me if you agree with my statement or not. If there is an agreed upon, and I'm not falling into exact word fallacy. I'm not telling you to do that, but if you would agree, if there is no date of birth for Jesus, and we were to believe, if we don't even know when the guy was born, and some unknown author wrote about him.
yes, I do. It was the 7th of December, 7 BC. I studied this.
7 BC?
7 BC, the 4th of December, 7 BC. Yes.
Okay, so let's go to so Matthew's putting him in 4 BC and Luke is putting him in 6
Oh,
AD. That's a
no.
10-year
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, I can give you study. You can go and study this, but this is also something which needs a deeper study. We cannot have. I think it is difficult in a live chat to go deeper into this. Okay.
Okay, show me the study. Where is it?
Yeah, I will give you a link, and you can go up and look it up. Okay, the link here is in the private chat.
Let's see this. The December 4th mystery. Matthew insists that Jesus was born before King Herod died.
Well,
That
I
is-
said you would need to take your time and study the article, which I gave you the link, and then you will understand the rationale, how I come to that date. Okay.
I
I
know,
mean,
but
you don't.
brother,
I mean,
I
you
read
don't.
it.
I mean, you don't need to do it now. You can do it after our chat. You can just save the article, and then you can read and inform yourself.
No, just give me a second. Just give me a second. Okay, so there's a problem here. You see this line here? Just a second. So let me just make it big. Because all these studies when we have gospel records, right? So it means that gospels are not portraying a correct picture. And then on top of that, it says Luke adds another puzzle piece with his census story. While critics point out Quirinius didn't govern Syria, Roman records show an earlier Syrian census under Governor Saturninus around this. But the problem is these censuses are not there in Josephus's writings, Tacitus' writing, because Rome, Judea, was not a Roman province up until 6 CE.
Okay, I think
And
we can.
you
Okay,
cannot have a census in some place which is not your under your government, so to
okay,
speak.
let's do this. Here I gave you in my private chat my email. You can send me your objections, and I will respond to you in written form. Is that okay?
Okay, brother. So I'm just gonna go back to reviewing my thing, and then we'll talk soon. Okay.
Okay. So can I now make you some questions?
Not right now, brother. I'm just gonna do the debate and leave. I wasn't expecting anyone to come up, but I just brought you up. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good day. Okay, guys. It's sometimes it becomes very hard to understand people when it's been a while since they have understood or read something. So kind of impossible when know about a lot of biblical scriptures and then going to Isaiah 53. It's kind of, something which doesn't lead anywhere. Okay, let's go to baking and cooking.
In his book, How on Earth Did Jesus Become a God, says the following regarding this. We have here a biblical passage that is among the most fervent expressions of God's uniqueness, adapted and apparently interpreted to affirm Jesus as supreme over all creation. Jesus is here linked with God in ways that rightly understood are startling and unequaled. And another passage is this, John chapter 5, verse 23 and 24. So we're going to come back to John 5 a few times, but I want you to notice something that Jesus says here. He says, the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, so that all may honor the Son.
I mean, I don't know if he's being serious or what he's doing. This absolutely destroys the claim of consubstantiality. If Father is giving Son something, now I have two questions for that. Has Jesus ever given Father anything, any authority? Has Jesus ever begotten the Father? Or has Jesus ever begotten Holy Spirit? Those are my questions. So, these are very confusing things. And this is not a good start when you're starting your HANDS, hands, and the honors you're bringing up are I don't even know what's written on the slide. So it just doesn't make sense when the first words coming out of your mouth are these. So it's kind of I don't know how to phrase this, but if this is your first slide to show that Jesus is co-equal, co-eternal to the Father, I don't know how the debate's gonna go, but let's see. Anyways,
in the same way, they honor the Father. He who doesn't honor the Son doesn't honor the Father who sent him. Now, the word in the same way here is kathos in Greek, and kathos is a conjunction that introduces an analogy or a comparison. Daniel Wallace states that it is often translated as, just as, in the same way, thus, or in this manner. In other words, the same class of honor that is due to the Father is exactly the same as the class of honor that is due to the Son. It is not a lesser type of honor. Now let's go to the attributes of God. This is where we come back to the Carmen Christi and we'll discuss Philippians 2. Hopefully we'll have a spirited discussion on what the specific phrases in that passage mean. But let's...
So before he does that, I'm just gonna post John 5 as a comment so that people know what it is, okay? So this is John 5:19. And the Sabbath thing is very easily refuted. I don't know why he's saying that, because it's gonna contradict God himself, because God did a lot of things on Sabbath. And Jesus was explaining that healing and eating something like David, there are a lot of easy refutations for these. So in this one says that very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing on his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. So I don't know how that is the same and being co-equal as the Father. It's funny, to say the least, actually.
Read verses 6 to 8 now, where it says, being in the form of God, or morphe theou, he did not regard as something to...
So morphe can mean a bunch of things. It's not, it has a wide semantic range. I don't know why he's bringing that thing up when you can't even explain what emptied himself, humbled himself, all these things mean. So, and why is Son doing this only? Can Father empty himself, come down, be in this form, stuff like that? So many questions which are going to go unanswered, I know. But
be held on to being equal with God. Arpagmon egiseto to eneisoteo. Rather, he emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, becoming in the likeness of men, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself, being obedient until death, even death on a cross. So there's been some back and forth in scholarship on what exactly morphe means in this context. So a number of scholars who are using linguistics or lexical semantics to understand its meaning have understood to mean nature. So, for example, Loanida in their Greek lexicon interpret that way. Moises Silva also interprets that way in his commentary, and so does J. Carson in his commentary. Now, there are some others who believe that morphe has more to do with appearance. So, for example, there is a book, I don't have it on me here, by Daniel Fabricatore, who takes the view that it refers primarily to appearance. And in fact, that is what it means in the vast majority of cases. I know that Libiano has in the past argued that that's what it means here, and he cites other places in the New Testament to that effect. Now, I will grant for the sake of argument that appearance is the meaning of morphe in this context. Even if we were to posit that's the case, this should be taken as appearance revealing reality, not appearance as opposed to reality. And how we know this is the fact that morphe occurs twice in the passage. The second time, it refers to the form of a slave or form of a servant. And no one would argue that Jesus was merely a servant in appearance, but his appearance as a servant highlights his reality of being a servant. In fact, what Fabricatore argues in his book Form of God, Form of a Servant is that the Carmen Christi uses this word to emphasize that Jesus is the visible manifestation of God's glory. And understood this way, the use of morphe enhances rather than minimizes the case for Jesus' divinity. Another important phrase is "uk arpagmon egisoto to eneisateo." He explains that this passage is to be understood as Christ did not consider being equal to God as something to use for his own.
So Christ, you kind of concede that Christ saying, I and Father are one, glory, forgiving sins. Even in John 5, there are lots of things. I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just. The grave thing, the Son has been granted life himself. All these things just mean whatever used to be for the prophets before. John 19, John 22, John 5. I'm talking about John chapter 5, verses 26 is there, 30 is there, so many things. So it's good that he had conceded that.
Advantage. So it is something he possesses, but he chooses not to hold on to it or take advantage of it. And this is contrasted with his kenosis, where it says he ekenosen, he emptied himself. Another important passage in this regard is Colossians 1, 15 and 19. So we're again going to revisit Colossians a few times. And I'm going to focus on verses 15 and 19 here.
So this one's just gonna destroy him because he's the image of invisible God, firstborn over all creation. That just like Adam was the one, it says that from whom all of humankind came. So is Adam before that? So, and this one actually, you're admitting that Jesus is a creation. Admittance of Jesus being a creation. That is super duper embarrassing. How can you just, shoot yourself in the foot? An image of God, everyone Jews believe is created in the image of God, but how, they don't know that. Firstborn of the creation, holding the keys to Hades, Revelation 1, 17, 18, 19, 3, 12, that stuff like that. These things are not going to help you. And being firstborn of this and that and this and that has nothing to do with you. Just presented that Jesus is created, which is a heresy, by the way.
So it says, he is the image of the invisible God, firstborn over all creation. And verse 19, for in him was pleased all the fullness to dwell. The use of the phrase image of God to describe Jesus is significant. New Testament scholar Peter O'Brien notes that this means that the very nature and character of God have been perfectly revealed in him. In him, the invisible has become visible. Now, some critics will point to the word firstborn or prototokos to argue that, well, Jesus is being presented as a creature here. However, the use of the word firstborn does not refer to createdness. For example, in the Septuagint version of the Psalms, David is called the firstborn among the kings of the earth. That doesn't mean that he was the first king to ever live. It just means he has.
So he is the first of all the kings, which means that Jesus is first of all the creation. David, first of all kings, equating to Jesus, first of all creation. Bro, what are you doing? Are you Doctor Strange or something? This is super duper funny. I mean, I don't even feel like watching the whole debate now. I should just, leave him be. He's just going to do it to himself.
Priority over those kings. So in this context, prototokos means pertaining to or existing prior to something else. So the passage refers to Christ existing before all creation or existing before anything was created. Likewise, the phrase pasis ktisios does not mean Christ is part of creation. It is what Daniel Wallace calls a genitive of subordination, which indicates dominion or priority of the subject. So Christ is the subject here, and then the object is all creation. Thus, it is best translated as firstborn over all creation. Now, another thing to note is verse 19. It says, pantopleroma, all the fullness of God dwells in him. What does that mean? Well, Paul actually clarifies what he means later on in chapter 2, verse 9, where he says, Pantopleurmatis theotitos dwells bodily. That word theotis may be defined as the nature or state of being God, deity, divine nature, divine being. The expression divine nature may be rendered in a number of languages as just what God is like, or how God is, or what God is. So that is Loenida's Greek English lexicon. If my opponent this evening has a different understanding of theotis, I would invite him to share what it is. Now, we get to Jesus being identified with the names of God. And I'm going to focus.
I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know what he's going to say, but from his slide, if it says, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. So I don't know how God is raising Lord and then let Lord is becoming God. You will be saved. I don't know. A lot of Christians who are talking on Instagram and TikTok, they don't believe that just saying this will save you. All who call on the name of Lord will be saved. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, that doesn't work.
Focus on one key passage under this heading, and that is Romans 10, verses 9 and 13. And you'll notice here that St. Paul says the following: if you confess with your mouth, Kyrion Iesun, Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And then verse 13, skipping ahead, for all who call on the name of the Lord will be saved. So in Greek, pasgaros an epikalisete to onomakirios thesete. Why do I quote the whole phrase in Greek? Well, that'll become evident in just a moment, because as almost every commentator has noted, St. Paul is actually quoting Joel 2:32. It in the Hebrew text says this: V'hayakol asher yikra b'shem Adonai malet. Notice that the divine name Yahweh is actually in the Hebrew text. And when you get to the Septuagint, that same passage is rendered the same way Paul renders it. And notice that the divine name is substituted with the word Kyrios. So all who call on the name of Yahweh, i.e. the Lord, will be saved. So Paul is explicitly taking a Yahweh text and he is applying it to Jesus. Now, Richard Bauckham, in his book, Jesus and the God of Israel,
I don't think Paul anywhere believed that Jesus is the same God as the God the Father. Applying something is different than calling someone outright Yahweh. But anyways.
Points out that this is highly significant. He states it in Romans 10, quote, Paul propounds a Christological version of Jewish eschatological monotheism, such that confessing.
Yeah, these are just over the years formed, hundreds of centuries, hundreds of years formed doctrine that has nothing to do with what Christ preached, what his disciple believed, and what Paul said and stuff, unfortunately. And I think somebody told me that he said he doesn't have a problem of doctrine evolving over time, which is a huge, huge discussion in it itself. But so far, his 17 minutes have been diabolical.
Jesus as Lord, or calling on the name of the Lord Jesus, is tantamount to acknowledging Yahweh as the one and only God. In this context, there's nothing incidental or unconsidered about Paul's identification of the name of Yahweh in Joel 2:32 as the name of Jesus. It is the climax of a clear statement of Christological monotheism, which makes a very serious identification of Jesus with Yahweh. The
Christological monotheism. Are you serious? Come on, man.
Identifying name Yahweh names Jesus as well as God his Father, and in such a way that they are certainly not two gods. Now, moving on, we have the deeds that only God can do. So,
okay, let's see. So he came back to John 5, like I said, a lot of these things. And we can go to John 5. A lot of things there says that the Father was the one who enabled these things. So I'm just feeling bad for him when, you're talking about these things. Here, let me post this actually. 5:19. Did I do that? 5:19. Here it is. Like my one verse is refuting your two different topics, bro. Come on, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to yourself? That is bad for you. Bad for you. That's just cut. He stopped at 18. He would have gone to 19. He would have. And I can give you 22 as well. It's bad. It's bad, honestly speaking. Let me do 5. Here we go. I don't know why you're not showing other verses when you're stopping from 16 to whatever you stopped at. You can go to 26. It's gonna say, the Father has granted Son life. As he said that he was going to be revisiting John 5 a lot. So here we go. He has granted the Son also to have life in himself. And we don't see Jesus doing this to Father. It's only one-way traffic. So you can go to 30. It's going to be equally bad. It's going to be like, I can do nothing on my own. Let's do that since we're having fun. I would have debated this guy without preparing anything. I don't know if Brother Lipiano put a lot of time debating and stuff, but this is just funny.
One of the ways that we identify divinity is that they have certain prerogatives that are unique to them. And some of those prerogatives include, for example, lordship over the Sabbath. So we know that in 7 days, God created the heaven and the earth, and he rested. And based on that, he institutes the Sabbath in Exodus chapter 20. Well, when we get to the gospel, Jesus proclaims his lordship over the Sabbath. In John 6:5, verse 16 to 18, note that we come back to John 5 now, it says this: the Jews were persecuting Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. What did he do on the Sabbath? He healed a man. Now, look at how Jesus justifies that action. Jesus answered him, my Father is working until now, and I'm working. This was why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal to God. Lipiano has argued in the past that this just means that God authorized Jesus to work on the Sabbath, but if you look closely, something more is at work. So according to a number of commentators, Jesus is appealing to the fact that Yahweh habitually violates Shabbat by creating and sustaining the world, because he's Lord over Shabbat. And Jesus is saying, if my Father can do it, why can't I? As Gary Burge points out in his commentary, if God, who made the Sabbath, can continue to work positively while commanding rest, and if Jesus' works are the works of God, then Jesus' works on the Sabbath are defensible. Jesus is assuming divine prerogatives. And this is in line with another statement in the Gospels, Mark 2:28, where Jesus says, the Son of Man is Lord over the Sabbath. In other words, he has the authority to interpret the Sabbath commands. So contrary to what Lipiano has claimed, Jesus making himself equal to God isn't just what the Jews thought. You've heard him say that in the past, but if you read the text, it never says this was just what the Jews thought, quote unquote. John gives no evidence that Jesus was misunderstood by his opponents. John presents this as his own assessment of Jesus' claims in verse 17. In fact, this is an example of John doing precisely the sort of thing Lipiano claims the gospel authors never do, which is insert editorial comments that point towards the divinity of Jesus. There are other such examples that I can give if I get a chance to in the rebuttals. Now, another important action that Jesus does that only God can do.
Everything was made through him. So if Jesus was an instrument to doing something, how can he be the same as God the Father, the Most High? And Colossians 1:16-17, all these things, I don't know why he's bringing these verses. Is this just gonna cook him and bake him? Oh my God, this is funny. Yes, let me reply to this person. A second, guys. What is this guy saying? Oh yeah. Having some issues with the stream. Anyways,
was creation. So we're all familiar with John 1:3, where it says, everything was made through him, and without him nothing was made that has been made. Colossians 1:16-17 says, by him was created everything in the heavens and upon the earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, everything was created through him and for him. He is before everything, and in him everything is held together. Now, notice, Jesus creates everything, but if he creates everything, that distinguishes him from what is created. So he is in the category of not created things. And notice, he not only creates everything, but he continually holds everything together in existence. And finally, everything is created not just by Jesus, but also for Jesus. So in other words, all of creation has Christ as its telos. Now, finally, Jesus.
And both things are not what God is, actually, to be honest with you. let me see if I can do the last one. Jesus shares in the seat of God's throne. Yeah, this is basically saying that, like I said at the start of the video, this is basically just a Jewish presentation of someone sharing. That doesn't mean that he's sharing divinity with God, and definitely doesn't mean he's sharing the same divinity as God. It's insane. And by the way, if you're sitting on the right side, I'm going to ask 2 questions. How many gods are you looking at? If you're looking straight to God the Father, and on the right side of his, which is going to be to your left, there's going to be another God. How many gods are you looking at? Who's the God to the right of the God, and who's the God to the left of the God, and how many gods do you count? Oh my God.
Shares in the seat of God's throne. And one passage that exemplifies this is Mark 14:61-64, where the high priest asks Jesus, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed? And Jesus replies, I am, and you will see the Son of Man sit at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven. And the high priest tore his robes and said, what need have we of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What say you? And they all condemned him as deserving death. Now, notice something that Jesus is doing here. He refers to himself as seated on the right hand of power, which is a reference to Psalm 110, where Yahweh says the Messiah sits at his right hand. And then Jesus takes Psalm 110 and connects it to Daniel 7:13-14, which talks about the Son of Man who receives honor and dominion. Now, I wrote my whole MTS thesis on this, but this image of the Son of Man in Daniel was expanded greatly in Second Temple Judaism, where they began to see the Son of Man as a divine person who exists before creation of the world and receives honors reserved for God. So the high priest clues in that Jesus is appealing to all these mental images that were current in his day.
Daniel 7, if you're talking about that, and it's not talking about Jesus at all, and other places, so to speak. Daniel 2, Nebuchadnezzar is praying or kind of doing something for Daniel, doesn't make Daniel God, the Most High, and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of confusion. Nothing is straight up. As he said, the president is seen, the soldiers are saluting, stuff like that. And even that was very disanalogous, so to speak. And no, not claiming equality with God. And if you are saying something is equal to something, that already mean that there are two of those. So it cannot be one essence and two persons. It would be two essence and two persons and two gods. So we can mess with your mind, just like your mind is already pretty messed up with these scriptures and stuff.
As Bowman and Komachevsky point out in their book, Caiaphas probably would not have deemed it blasphemous for Jesus to claim he was going to enter God's presence in heaven. However, to sit at God's right side, meaning alongside God in heaven, was another matter altogether. In the religious and cultural milieu of Jesus, to claim to be a king, we get 5 sets of arguments pointing towards Jesus' divinity.
So are you saying they make a strong inductive case, or you're 100% sure that happened? Because nothing in there was consubstantial. I mean, a partial selection of text, sure. I just forwarded it. Maybe he would have said that he could have brought more verses, but these are very partial to your own reading into the text as a Christian. And unfortunately, that doesn't work. So I'm just going to end my live stream here. It was pretty bad for Christians. I'm going to see this on my own, or maybe tomorrow we're going to react to it. But I'm just going to end the stream. This was very, very bad for Christianity. And this PhD doctor just wasted his life studying something which is just not there. Justin Martyr, Tertullian, they're all kind of like, they destroy all his arguments. And when he's saying there was development in doctrine, it's kind of like going forward, then back, then forward, more like a roller coaster, so to speak. Anyways, guys, I'm just gonna end it. Inshallah, we'll talk soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما